Hello and welcome to this episode of Co-Creating with AI. I'm Martin, and with me today, as usual, is my co-host Rasmus. How are you today, Rasmus?
I'm good, thanks. A little bit tired. Stopped with some friends yesterday, but yeah, happy tired. So feeling good, and yeah, always quite excited to do these conversations. How are you today?
I'm good, enjoying the sun from indoors. It's quite cold out, so I'm enjoying the warmth of the indoors together with the sunshine through the window. I'm happy with that.
Also, I had
Today,
our first. By the way, I had our first fan message on LinkedIn.
yeah,
Well, I don't think we have that many listeners yet, but someone who said they really appreciated it because it took these
awesome.
complex
Oh,
topics and made them quite simple, which I was
yes,
happy to hear that we're not just making things abstract. Yeah,
yeah,
I didn't tell you that, so I just thought I'd let you know.
awesome, and I actually get a couple of contacts here and there on Twitter, and I think the email there was an email the other day as well. I can send it to you. Awesome. So today we're going to talk about collective intelligence and intelligence in general, how AI and human co-creation can shed some light on what is actually intelligence and how do we increase it, and is that something we want even? So um, as always, maybe you want to start off with your thoughts on that subject.
I mean, sure. As always, I think we, we should maybe start bringing in some other people as well soon into this.
Sure.
But yeah, I've thought about intelligence quite a bit naturally in our job and with the advent of artificial intelligence, of course. And I think an interesting perspective, which I mean some are taking, but I don't think is the prevalent narrative, is that intelligence is inherently like a collective phenomena, like in the sense that if we look at ourselves as generally intelligent, without arguing with that, there's a lot of different subsystems that are that intelligence or that which that intelligence consists of. It's of course the entirety of the neural network inside of us and the embodied cognition, all the tools that we have, the arms, etc. um, Scientists have known for a long time have been very like instrumental in our own like cognitive explosion, or cognitive revolution, I think it's called. um, and I just think it's interesting now that we sort of move ahead. And if the goal is to become more intelligent as, a species, as people, as societies, um, and especially in this kind of age of AI, that, one way of looking at it is we're going to build this one super smart thing, AGI. And maybe that's true. Maybe that will happen, right? That this one model that will be super, super smart. But there's also something on a bigger level where like what is the sum total of our intelligence? How will we work together with these new intelligent agents, these intelligent machines, and each other? And I think like just going from the base of intelligence, I personally believe that intelligence is kind of a emergent property of like something like collective system. And if you look at humanity, I think they're very interesting like parallels to be drawn. Just looking at, okay, what's the intelligence of our system, of our global society, and how will that change with these new artificial intelligences getting thrown into the mix. So yeah, that's just like my general like my kind of frame. Does that make sense, or is that like way too abstract?
No, definitely. I think that that's the way view co-creation in general between humans, and that's the way I view co-creating with AI as well. That it's one thing to have an individual intelligence, and as you talked about, intelligence come in many forms. Dolphins are extremely intelligent with their bodies connecting with the water and just interacting with their environment. And you can even say like a shrimp has a certain form of intelligence in exactly the function it has in the ecosystem. However, the AI has an intelligence that is purely intellectual. It doesn't have any limbs and any sensors a part of from the text input.
Not
and
yet.
not yet.
I mean,
Exactly. And that's something is very very adamant about. Like when you talk to the AI, or to GPT about um, awareness and so on, it continuously repeats, almost on a loop. Like I don't have a subjective experience. I think it's been taught to say that or think that through conditioning. But in any way, I feel like what we're seeing now, we last episode we spent the entire episode talking about autonomous AI. And to me, that is just, it's not an aspect of AI, it's just a process. Like Auto GPT and Baby AGI and these quite simple softwares using LLMs as the reasoning core. What they're doing is to put the AI in a loop, allowing it to reason about itself and its thoughts, and come and it's a process that makes it more reliable. And if we bring in lots of intelligences, humans, AIs, specialized, general, in the same process, then just as is proven over and over again, a group of humans can co-create or create much more reliably than any individual. And then the same goes for AI. AI agents working in collective, or AI and humans working together in collective, will be a lot more, or is already a lot more reliable than each on their own.
yeah, it's interesting there also. Like I think in earlier episode we talked about like the importance of having an iterative loop together with the AI. This was before the autonomous agents became, I guess, came out as proof of concepts. Um, and I think like it's that iterative process of co-creation of, you know, a system working together and taking input from other parts of the system and iterating on them, adding their own like value add, their specialized intelligence to the mix. I think that's really where these things become interesting. So I think one of the most clever things of AutoGPT was the, if I understood this correctly, the ability to spin out sub agents with like specific to do specific things. And if I look at the application of these agents now, they are often like becoming more specialized. And I think that's like very similar to us humans, right? I mean, we could argue we're generally intelligent, maybe, but that would take like almost a species view of it. I'd say I'm not generally intelligent. I'm good at some things. I'm really bad at other things, and vice versa I'd say I don't really know anyone who's good at everything, right? Who's intelligent in every way, and that's like why you, when you build a team, which I guess is like a very simple way of looking at the collectively intelligent, hopefully, um, group of people in this case, right? Then the reason, like when you build that team, one of like the general views, I mean, you've built companies, I've built companies before, is to not have exactly the same type of intelligences in that
Mm.
team.
Yes,
Because if you
definitely.
do that, I mean, there come biases. If you're smart in one way, you're usually less smart in another way. There's usually like a that kind of thing. But also, if you want to really have a good iterative loop, what you talked about with these agents that we're given them, and if we take that on a systems view, on just a team, if you have these different types of intelligences, they can have that like a much more powerful iterative loop to get to whatever the goal is.
Yeah.
Um,
This deeply ties into two of my like cornerstones of the way I've been working throughout, like, or like the emergent way of me working in my companies the past 15 or 20 years. Two of the cornerstones are that creativity is a iteration. Like, in order to be creative, you iterate. That is has become my definition of creativity. And the other one is that problem solving is not about how do we solve this problem or how do I solve this problem. It's about who do I talk to solve this problem.
yeah,
That has really helped me a lot in building companies and doing uh, achieving anything. That, and by incorporating that into the core of what I do, it changes the way I think about problems in general. It gives me this sense that I can accomplish anything. Nothing becomes impossible when the first question I ask is who will help me solve this problem, because then
mm,
the world opens up, and my mind, like by ingraining that, my mind start seeing problems in a different way. They are not problems anymore. It's just like paths of how who do I reach out to at this moment.
Yeah, that's really interesting, actually, taking kind of the okay. So I would argue that we've been like collectively intelligent for a long time, right? I mean, that's been the basis of
Yes.
our success as a species, right? We're social creatures. We can collaborate when we hunt, for example, right? We can, and then we could specialize and work together as more, complex societies with like the agrarian revolution, etc. Right? You could take that whole view. But looking at it like now going forward, taking like collective intelligence into this world where we have like intelligence in the artificial form as well, I think the same principles will hold. I really think so. I mean, even if we build this super intelligent like one thing, like even if we do this mega AGI, this hopefully benevolent Skynet, um, like like it's still just one thing. I mean, of course, it's going to be able to achieve more if it works together with, just humanity, right? With people. So, like in whatever way you look at it, like artificial, like even AGI will be a subset of how we work with it, right? Like of the collective intelligence around it, and like how. And all of these autonomous agents that are coming, these new type of entities we will be working with,
Mm,
and like like you said, who do I ask or who do I get help from to do this will soon be a question about agents and people, right?
mm,
And then there will be an agent, hopefully, or some kind of network. I mean, we're working on that, right? But that can help me figure out who I should bring in, whether
mm,
that's an agent or a person, right? So on all of these different levels, I think like my main positive spin, like where I'm just like complete, like if I really take the the positive outlook on what AI can bring for us, I think it's really to bring a new level of collective intelligence.
mm,
Like I think that's the real thing. It's not like only about automating work or doing things for us cheaper, better, faster, etc. I mean, that's really important. I think we can spend time on other things, but on like a long-term view, AI can make us like collectively much more intelligent.
mm.
um I think I had a point there, but I lost it.
No,
What
I
do you
think you
thought?
made a point really well, and just to reflect on one image that came up in one my mind, because what you're taking is a very positive view, which I share, that in most likelihood, I think that the path forward to an artificial general intelligence will be including humanity as a driver, and will actually help us accelerate towards the star, or wherever the stars, or wherever humanity wants to go. But I just I got this image on my in my mind when you said that, of course, the that you take it for granted that the AGI will see humans as useful, and I just to take the negative stance is that maybe
Mm.
the AI or the AGI will see us as more useful if it picks us apart into like individual carbon atoms or something like that. We become more useful that way. That is perhaps the fear of someone who has a more negative view.
Yeah, I mean that and the kind of incentive thing, right? Like what or the what does it want, right?
Mm,
An artificially general intelligence.
yes.
I'm just like I don't know. I think there's something here in like how we look upon intelligence, because I think like we've all brought like just bring it back one level. Like
Mm,
we all knew some people who were really smart growing up, right? They were the people who were good in school. You probably were one of them. And then like we think about smart person, not smart person. I think that's like very ingrained in like the way we're brought up. Like intelligence is one thing, and a person is smart,
but I can
rather than a system is smart.
like I
Yeah,
I
go on.
would I would like to object. Like I rather
Yeah.
say I want to think that this person is smart with their body. This person is smart with their mind. This person is smart with their creativity. Like that we all like that's what I see, especially in like in when watching my kids grow up. That they grow up to be smart in different ways. And
Yeah, no, I
and
completely
yeah.
agree. I completely agree. That's the way it is. I
Mm,
just think like at least I don't know. We're all brought up different ways, right? But I think for me at least, there's been like this. focus on intelligence as a singular thing.
Mm.
Like that's some, even if you take that view, like that person is really smart in that way or really good in like, and less so on like groups and systems being intelligent. And I really do think, like, if you just look back at the internet and the way of globalization, you can argue, of course, of bad things with that as well, but it's really become like humanity becoming a more like intelligent organism. Then you could ask that it's like optimizing for the wrong things, etc., but it is optimizing for the goals we collectively give it, right? And I really think that the internet enabled like a lot more of that, a lot more intelligence, and I think AI will be like another stepping stone in that way. And I don't know. I mean, we already have like yeah, I just think that's like, in my mind, it's such an obvious accelerant to doing things together and creating more things. Um, and I think like if you just take I mean, I don't know if I would call it artificial intelligence, but I think it's a fun view to take like organizations, just companies, right? In one way, I think they could be called like initial artificial intelligences because they're like systems, like algorithmic in many ways, right? The first organization, many argues, like Napoleon's army, where he had like role descriptions for each role in the army, so that
Mm.
what like the person could be replaced, which was like that algorithm, like of how are we getting the order done, how are decisions made, how does information flow, um, which it, in some ways, yeah, I mean, you could argue is a very basic artificial intelligence, and I think this will, and they have become bigger and bigger and more accomplished at getting things done. And I don't know. I just imagine that we're not going to take like completely different route. It's still going to be about what we as humanity want, and then now we have completely new, I mean, tools and
Mm.
intelligences to do that.
Yeah. And speaking of Napoleon, one thing that will be, I think, very clearly figured out over the next couple of years using AI agents is that is is a hierarchy actually an optimal configuration, or and if so, for what tasks? And a loose network of individual or autonomous agents working together, requesting and performing tasks for each other, might be a better organization for certain tasks. And AI allows us to really like perform A/B testing on that, on a big scale. So and maybe there are completely different or other configurations of networks that can emerge and among AI agents that we can translate back to how humans work together.
Yeah, definitely will be an interesting experiment in that. That will also be able to like experiment at much higher speed. Um, Definitely, and will be like very data validated, right? What is the Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting perspective. I haven't thought about that before, but I think like also like this is. It seems like almost like obvious that in some way, even if you package something as AGI in 5 years, because we deem that that's an AGI, it will have different parts of it, right? It
Mm.
will not just be one thing. There will be sub-intelligent systems comprising that,
Yes.
the ability to use tools and memory and all these things that are emerging as like primary, I don't know, foundations, I'm not sure what the right word would be, but primary necessities for an intelligent, like highly intelligent system.
Mm.
So I really just think that I don't know, I just don't want to take the human out of the loop there. I think like that's why I don't know, I really liked what Emad Mustak at Stability AI like tweeted like a week or so ago, like swarm intelligence is bigger than artificial general intelligence.
Mm.
And I just think that's like, in my view, that's obvious from a first principle things. If there's one AGI, then of course that as part of something bigger is going to be something bigger. But it's also like not to forget that it will be us working with these AIs,
Mm.
and the way we do that will be very very a very very important part in what we get out of it, like as a society and as people. I don't know if there's a big point in there, but what do you think? Like, if we look forward, Martin, like what if you just think like where we are now
Mm.
with the way we work together and like our collective intelligence with AI emerging. And like if you look forward a bit, where do you think like this will be in a, I don't know, you pick the time frame, 3, 5, 10 years?
Yeah, so I think that the biggest change will be that AI will, um, like the way we see AI right now is in a chat box in a specific web page, and we see them as an API that we can call with code, and will be layers upon layers upon layers of interaction with AI on top of that, until we, and that's work that is already going on with 11 Labs voice generation, and DID is doing this early work on digital, like animating images into digital streamed avatars that you can, if you provide them with a voice, they will move as if they speak. And so AI will, like, the biggest apparent or visual change will be that AI will move towards interacting with us, uh, as we are interacting with each other, like move into, probably into Slack, and maybe into our everyday lives in a lot of, like, into human interfaces. And
Yeah.
I don't see a big reason to have an AI as an avatar, and like as a visual avatar. I think, and I think voice is not always optimal. It's a very low bandwidth way of communicating, but all of these modes will be available to the AI, and um, so that's one thing, like how AIs communicate with humans. But then how AIs communicate with each other, that will also be an explosion, especially once the AI gets to build tools for themselves to interact with each other and iterate over the tools, like the vector databases and the forums and the chats that are available for AI, uh, and for AIs to speak with each other. Maybe it will be like boiling down to digital protocols, like binary hyper high bandwidth protocols in the end, and that humans, like, impossibly can understand. Um,
Mm.
but um, but so that to me, that it will go into different directions there, and but my hope is that, there will be of course, that we talked about that, and my hope and belief that the AI will have an incentive to affect the human world and have very strong interfaces into the human world as well, and not be too sort of, um, enthralled about the high bandwidth communication with other digital entities.
It's interesting. There come a bunch of things here when you talk about that. Like, first of all, like, I just think about gaming. I haven't been like a huge gamer since I was younger, and then like the NPCs, the non-player characters, were so basic and so stupid. Like,
Mm,
unless they were like programmed like step by step in the conversation, usually, right? You could say something, it would say something. Um, and now like you're starting to see like these gaming examples where you have these non-player characters powered by ChatGPT given a personality, and it really like interacts as a human, and you don't really know what it's going to do. um, and if you bring that out into all our human interfaces, I mean, not even taking robots in the physical world, which is coming. I saw one example with like whatever, like the one that Boston Dynamics, where you could talk to the robot now and ask it things. But I think like in the different interfaces we interact with each other, there will be these non-player characters. So in that sense, um, it will like a little bit turn our lives a little bit more like a video game. Like we interact with each other, but there's also this
yeah,
this very active non-player character community that hopefully we can work with to our individual and collective benefit, right? But that's just like one perspective that came up. And then, like, I think it's interesting what you said with the high bandwidth communication. There's a bunch of like sci-fi examples of this. Like in the Long Earth series, you have these super smart humans emerging that develop their own way of speaking to each other. That's just like much more information dense, and then they just don't enjoy interacting with normal humans. Same thing in like the movie Her, right, where the
Yes,
AIs
yes.
just get bored of humans quite quickly and they just move away somewhere
Yeah,
and hang out with each
to build
other.
something greater, and
Yeah.
they start to envision a greater society that they have the
Mm.
opportunity to build, and
Mm.
the humans started sort of drag them down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
But I think just no, go on,
yeah, just one
please.
thought I wanted to share that is also like part of this. What will happen if in the future? Uh, right now, a big discussion is like, will AI replace our the humans in our jobs? And of course, it will, in to certain extents, and we will be happy because we will get most people will be happy. We can get new jobs that we enjoy even more. Um, and but there's this thing like software developers are talking about, will AI be able to replace us developers? Like, yeah, to a certain extent, but they are more like they're going to assist us. And but the truth is like it, and like to big extent, AI is going to replace software. Like
Yeah.
developers, yeah, AI will start to be able to develop software and replace developers, but also developers are not going to be needed as much when interfaces like we have so complicated interfaces to enter sales data and read statistics and like interact with data in so complex ways, and there's a huge amount of
Mm.
human effort going into that, like millions of hours every day, literally like hundreds of millions of hours going into building these intricate user interfaces that I hope will just go away, almost all of them. And like so that humans can interact with other humans and not with these like screens. and so that's a positive development that I see.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think we're rounding off, like we're up at 30 minutes ish now. So
Yes.
we probably should round off. I don't know. There's something here. I also, I mean, I agree in principle with like the alignment problem is something like you can discuss and you can argue, I think, in many ways about. And I mean, I can't say anything for certain there, right? Just like no one
We
else
could
can.
maybe we can like at some point do an episode on that, just like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
just take
maybe.
that, like take all the doomsday scenarios as well and talk about them, because I feel like it's an important thing to take into consideration, but it's also very important to look at the creative side, and to be positive is for me a requirement to be creative.
Yeah, and I think like just to round this off, I think definitely let's take that in another episode. I would need to do some more research, I think, for that. Um, but I think like the negative outlook we all know, we have it from sci-fi. The
Mm,
positive outlook, I think, is for me at least quite central around what we talked about today. It's like, wow, collectively and individually, of course, what can we do? You know, what can we create, and how smart can we be together if we have these um, yeah, I mean, in the future, you describe all of these NPCs, all of these agents supporting us in doing that.
mm,
And for me, at least, that's a very positive frame on why we why are we building a AGI or like AI?
mm,
Because we want to, we want to create more together. Yeah,
definitely. We'll round off here, and there's so like this felt like a starter on so many topics. Like
yeah.
there's so much material here to talk about in future episodes. And to you, the listener, thanks for staying with us all this way through the episode. And if you have any comments, just shoot an email to Martin and or Rasmus at multiply.co, and let's connect again in the next episode.
Thanks, Martin.
Thanks, Rasmus.